Let's talk about your home, Turtle Creek. And it really has some really good numbers as far as the census numbers, people moving in, living there, the great school district, place to work, manufacturing news. But the key is the streets are safe in Turtle Creek. What do you attribute that to, Mayor? And then we'll talk about what you'd like to see happen if elected to Congress in that 12th district, which really comprises a lot of the city of Pittsburgh. Good evening.
Thank you, Rob, for having me on again. I really appreciate it. I will give most of the credit to my chief, John McCall. He does an outstanding job of working with our police officers, and obviously my police officers are amazing, professional. They consistently step up, go above and beyond as far as working overtime and those sorts of things. But 2 years ago, we were very concerned that our department was going to collapse because we were losing people due to we weren't able to compete salary-wise, but we turned it around. Working with council, we were able to take our department that was almost down to 3 or 4 full-time, and now we're up to 9.
That's incredible.
I understand it's difficult for surrounding communities like East Pittsburgh and Braddock and North Braddock and Rankin. They've had to consolidate, which I see that's going to be happening more than likely all throughout the county. That's unfortunate, but it's the reality of where we're at. Police work is expensive work, and it's needs to be done correctly. It needs to be done safely. More importantly, I think the idea of defunding the police is absolutely ludicrous. The far left liberals have mentioned that and continuously pound that drum. It doesn't make any sense to do that. I myself, and I haven't really met many of my constituents that do not want to fund the police department. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Listen, if you could do that in Turtle Creek, a community that I absolutely love and I miss, I need to get back there and maybe break some bread with you one night. And you can go from 3 to 9 and the results are there. Anything's possible. So you have to believe that you could really help that city if elected to Congress, that 12th district, which obviously comprises a lot of the city, right? So how would you go about it, and what do you see the need to be when it comes to keeping people safe and helping law enforcement in the city of Pittsburgh? Go ahead.
So I firmly believe that police work and public safety are also related to jobs. It's also related to schools. If you have those three working with each other, it'll lead to a great society, great communities. People have to feel safe and able to live comfortably. It just kind of goes back to the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If we don't have quality jobs, people are going to turn to crime. It's just for survival. If we can make that turnaround in the 12th district, in the Mon Valley, in areas like where the Old Century 3 Mall, we can bring work into those areas. It's going to have a ripple effect. It's going to lead to more policing, more opportunities for business. And I would like to see the federal government kind of go back to the idea that President Obama had to get us out of the recession in 2008 with the Americans Recovery and Reinvestment Act. There was $4 billion allocated strictly to police and local governments so that they could hire more police officers. Our problem now is that people don't want to be police officers because there's a bad stigma out there, and that's not fair. Like I said earlier, my police officers are outstanding. There are good and bad in every profession. You have good teachers, bad teachers, good chefs, bad chefs, good cops, bad cops. It's those people who aren't doing their job need to be held accountable. We need to recruit young people into these positions. And the only way we do that is if the funding is made available from the federal level. And who knows what's happening now. I've just heard the piece about the county losing funding from President Trump's cuts that I feel like don't really have a plan. He's just cutting because he said he would. And I'd like to see some Republicans step up and come to the middle and say enough is enough. Things like policing and public safety should be a priority. President Trump needs to double down on that.
Well, let me tell you what else he needs to do, and you brought his name up. So if you're having Hyundai bring in hundreds of millions of dollars to invest in steel and they being a great foreign entity, meaning a company, and works well in the global economy, the automobile industry, still a prime example of how it can work. What is he waiting on when it comes to Nippon Steel? Because you know as well as I do the partnership that they could form with U.S. Steel and the money that it would mean for things like police, safety, and obviously the infrastructure, roads and bridges, and helping the American family live that American dream. I mean, come on. This deal has got to get done between Nippon and U.S. Steel, and that's right in your time zone. That's where you live. That's where you teach. Talk about that, please.
Yeah, I've said the past couple of times I've been on your show, the identity of our whole community is around those mills, and we can't afford for any other group to come in and pull away or take us away from the blast furnace and going to electric production of steel. Nippon understands that. I think President Trump is starting to see. We have a group of mayors that have written him a letter recently saying what we feel needs to happen for Nippon Steel and U.S. Steel's merger. I think as a businessman, President Trump gets it. But as the president, I'm still not sure because you can't predict what he's going to do from one day to the next. But I hope that this is on his priority list to make happen. It's because it's make or break.
All right, last thing. The mayor of Turtle Creek, Adam Forgie, is here, and he'll be with me for a couple of more minutes. And he's running also for the 12th congressional seat of Congress, and he's going to be facing Summer Lee. So here's my question. My question is to you, being a teacher. You know, I'm a big proponent of education, and I'm not happy about the Department of Education, that news there, and I've gone on record and said that. Also news with the Pittsburgh Public Schools, parents today reading in the Post-Gazette pushing back on these building closures. Look, you end up becoming a congressman, 12th district, the city's going to be right there all the time, and you being a teacher, you have to have something to say about that. I understand what these parents are going through because your kids get comfortable, they like their surroundings, they learn, they thrive, and when you start changing things, it can really upset the apple cart. So just give me your thoughts on why I believe a politician should care about, if it is their district, what's going on with the schools. I think this mayor's race is very important when it comes to things like the Pittsburgh Public Schools. So if elected to Congress, what would you be thinking or trying to help with the Pittsburgh Public Schools, being that you have a teaching background and are teaching today? Go ahead.
Yeah, dismantling the Department of Education is going to have so many, unforeseen consequences that President Trump cannot see. Like, number one, class sizes are going to increase in public schools because you have a lack of teachers. Vulnerable students are going to lose any type of access they might have to tutoring after school or pre-K programs, Head Start. And then that leads to what we were talking about earlier. When kids don't have things to do after school because the funding has been cut, it's going to lead to more issues in the community. And that itself is unacceptable. I firmly believe that there needs to be the relationship between the communities and the youth of our communities with our police needs to be healed. There's a stigma that's not fair to police officers. I would like to see more school resources in the buildings for the obvious that they're there to help in case of a horrible emergency or tragedy. But also, the kids can see that the police officer is a normal person. And it's kind of like some kids think that teachers, they live to school, they never leave. Well, that's obviously not true. And the same thing happens with police officers. They're not always on duty, and they shouldn't be seen as the uniform is something intimidating. It should be a matter of respect and understanding that this person is here to help me. But I can see this also have an impact on higher education. The loans, the price of higher education is going to go through the roof because you don't have the federal government there to assist in those schools and providing revenue sources to the universities.
So let me ask you, what made you want to be a teacher?
My 8th grade teacher, actually, he was my history teacher. I'll give him a plug. His name is Mr. Swislin. He just instilled to me just a love of American history. I did have some, a hobby of the Civil War before that. But once I started teaching, I absolutely fell in love with it, especially in the community where I grew up. because I went to school there, and now I'm very much. I tell my students, like, look, if I can do it, and I'm standing up here just like you, we're the same. The only difference is I have a college degree and I'm older than you, and I'm here to help you do whatever it is you want to achieve in life.
Well, we got to continue to make young people want to be teachers. We need them, and the Pittsburgh public schools are so important that anything we can do to help them, we need to. Listen, best of luck in everything you do. You're a bright light. You bring a lot of common sense to the table, and I'm glad we could spend a little time tonight, okay?
Thank you again. I appreciate it.
All right, there he goes, the mayor of Turtle Creek. We're going to take a short break, come back, open the phone lines up. Lots to get to tonight on KDK with your Pratt Pack.